Good morning, every day, and welcome to day 18 of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. So, today we are going to get started on a whole new chapter, and this chapter is called Put First Things First. Yesterday, we talked about what our fastball was, developing your passion, and then we went through the baby steps. And today we are jumping into the whole next section. So, put first things first. Will and won't power. Just sit back and relax because we have quite a bit to discuss today. I watched the Indy 500 and I was thinking that if they left earlier, they wouldn't have to go so fast. Stephen Wright, comedian. I was listening to a speech comparing the challenges faced by today's teens to those of teens who lived 150 years ago. I agreed with most of what the speaker said until this. The challenge that teens faced 150 years ago was hard work. The challenge that teens face today is a lack of hard work. Excuse me, I'm gonna go to myself, a lack of hard work? What are you smoking? I think teens are multitasking more than ever. I see it with my own eyes every day. Between school, socializing, extracurricular activities, clubs, athletics, part-time jobs, dealing with family, and on, there's barely time to breathe. A lack of hard work? Milking cows and mending fences doesn't sound any more difficult than juggling the multifaceted life of a 21st century teen. Let's face it, you've got a lot to do, and there's just not enough time. After school, there's rehearsal, followed by work. There's also that bio test tomorrow, and you've got to text your friend relationship crisis advice. On top of that, you should exercise. The dog needs a walk, and your room's a disaster. What'll you do? Habit 3, put first things first can help. It's all about learning to prioritize and manage your time so that your first things come first, not last. But there's more to this habit than just time management. Putting first things first can also help you learn to overcome your fears and be strong during hard moments. In habit 2, you decided that your first things are. Habit 3 then is putting them first in your life. Sure, we can have a nice list of goals and good intentions, but doing them, putting them into action, is the hard part. That's why I call habit 3 the habit of willpower, the strength to say yes to your most important things, and won't power, the strength to say no to less important things and to peer pressure. The first 3 habits build upon each other. Oh, come back. Where'd I go? I'm sorry, you guys. Oh my, I went way off. Okay, there it is. We are right. Okay, so the first 3 habits build upon each other. Habit 1 says you are the driver, not the passenger. Habit 2 says decide where you want to go and draw up a map to get you there. Habit 3 says now get there. Don't let roadblocks knock you off your course. Packing more into your life. Have you ever packed a suitcase and noticed how much more you can fit inside when you neatly fold and organize your clothes instead of just throwing them in? It's really quite surprising. The same goes for life. The better you organize yourself, the more you'll be able to pack in. More time for family and friends, more time for school, and more time for yourself. More time for your first things. I'd like to show you an amazing model called the time quadrant that can help you pack more in, especially important things. It's made up of 2 primary ingredients, important and urgent. Important. Your most important things, your first things, activities that contribute to your mission and your goals. Urgent. Things that have to be done ASAP. In your face things, activities that demand immediate attention. In general, we spend our time in 4 different time quadrants, as shown below. Each quadrant contains different kinds of activities and is represented by a type of person. Okay, so time quadrants, you have the procrastinator, the prioritizer, the yes man, and the slacker. All right, the procrastinator worries about things that are important and urgent. The prioritizer worries about things that are important and not urgent. The yes man, not important but urgent. And the slacker worries about things that are not important and not urgent. If you haven't already noticed, we live in a society that's addicted to urgency. It's the now generation. That's why we have internet on our phones, instant messaging, Instagram, crash diets, fast food, 140 character tweets, and online shopping. It reminds me of Veruca Salt, the spoiled rich girl in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, who keeps saying, "Now, Daddy, now. I want an Oompa Loompa now." Urgent things aren't bad necessarily. The problem comes when we become so focused on urgent things that we put off important things that aren't urgent, like working on that report in advance, going for a walk in nature, or taking time to video chat with a long distance friend. All these important things get interrupted by urgent things, like texts, emails, deadlines, and other in your face to do it this second things. As we dig a little deeper into each quadrant, ask yourself, what quadrant am I spending most of my time? Okay, quadrant number 1, the procrastinator. Let's start with Q1, things that are both urgent and important. There will always be Q1 things that we can't control and that must get done, like helping someone who is sick or sticking to a due date. But we also cause many Q1 headaches because we procrastinate, like when we put off doing our homework and then have to cram all night for a test, or when we neglect our bike for too long and then have to take it in to get repaired. Q1 is part of our life. But if you're spending too much time in Q1, believe me, you'll feel like a hot mess and you'll seldom be performing to your potential. Meet the procrastinator who hangs out in Q1. Perhaps you know her. Her motto is, "I'm going to stop procrastinating sometime soon." Don't expect her to work on a paper or study for a test until the night before, and don't expect her to take time to get gas. She's usually too busy driving. The procrastinator is addicted to urgency. She likes to put things off and put things off and put things off until it becomes a crisis. But she likes it that way because, you see, even though it's stressful, doing everything at the last minute gives her a rush. In fact, her mind won't kick into gear until there's an emergency. She thrives under pressure. Planning ahead is simply out of the question for the procrastinator because it would ruin the excitement of doing everything at the last possible moment. I can relate to the procrastinator because I was a cram artist in high school. I used to think it was impressive to not study all semester, then cram the night before, and pull off a good grade. How stupid. Sure, I got the grade, but I didn't learn a thing, and I paid for it in college. In many ways, I'm still paying for it. One procrastinating teen said it this way: "What I do is I slack off until the end of the term and kill myself for the last 2 weeks. When grades come out, I get around a 3.7 to 3.8, but I don't feel I've earned it because everyone else turns stuff in on time and does what they're supposed to. They're not stressed. That's how I want to be." The results of too much time in Q1 are stress and anxiety, feeling burnt out, and a mediocre performance. Okay, yes, man. Quadrant 2, the prioritizer, we'll save the best for last. I'll keep you in suspense for now. So we're going to go straight to quadrant 3, the yes man. Q3 represents things that are urgent but not important. It is characterized by trying to please other people and responding to their every desire. This quadrant is deceptive because urgent, immediate things feel important. In truth, they're often not. I mean, how many times do you drop something to check your phone when the only text you got is from a friend responding K or LOL, and that's it? Not really worth the interruption. Q3 is loaded with activities that are important to other people but not important to you. Things that you would like to say no to but can't because you're afraid you might offend someone. Meet the yes man of Q3, who has a hard time saying no to anything or anyone. He tries so hard to please everyone that he usually ends up pleasing no one, including himself. He suffers from FOMO, fear of missing out. He can't stop imagining that everyone's having fun without him, and so he tries to be a part of everything. He often caves to peer pressure because he likes feeling popular, and he wouldn't want to stand out. His motto is, "Tomorrow I'll be more assertive, if that's okay with you." When his friends dropped by unexpectedly one evening and wanted him to go for a night ride, he just couldn't muster up the courage to turn them down. He didn't want to disappoint his buddies. It didn't matter what he was. It didn't matter that he was taking a massive test the next morning and needed to study and get some sleep. He told his sister that he'd help her with math, but he couldn't resist getting distracted by a texting marathon for most of the night, even though it wasn't that important. He didn't really want to join the swimming team. He preferred graphic design, but his dad was a swimmer, and of course he didn't want to let him down. I think all of us, myself included, have a little Q3 inside of us, but we won't accomplish much if we say yes to everything and never learn to focus on what's most important. Comedian Bill Cosby has said it well. "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is to try to please everyone." Q3 is one of the worst quadrants to be in because it has no backbone. It's fickle and will blow whichever way the wind is blowing. The results of spending too much time in Q3 are feeling like a follower rather than a leader, lack of discipline, and feeling like a doormat for others to wipe their feet on. Yuck, who wants that? Okay, quadrant 4, the slacker. Q4 is the category of waste and excess. These activities are neither urgent nor important. Meet the slacker who hangs out in Q4. He loves anything in excess, like too much TV, too much sleep, too much PlayStation, or too much time online. Two of his favorite pastimes include regular napping and binging an entire TV series each weekend. He's a professional slacker. Sleeping in until noon takes real skill after all. School, of course, is the last thing on his mind, and a summer job is out of the question. He'd rather, just hang out. Yes, of course, chilling out and watching videos online are part of a healthy lifestyle, but it's only when they're done in excess that they become a waste of time. You'll know when you cross that line. Watching that first episode of your favorite TV show might be just what you need to relax, and that's okay. But then watching the second, third, or even fourth show, a rerun that you've seen 5 times already, until 2 a.m., turns a relaxing evening into a wasted one. The results of living in Q4 are lack of responsibility, guilt, flakiness, and missing out on adventures. Okay, now let's get to quadrant 2, the prioritizer. Now, Q2 is made of things that are important but not urgent, like relaxation, friendships, working out, planning ahead, and doing homework on time. It's the quadrant of excellence, the place to be. Q2 activities are important, but are Q2 activities urgent? No, and that's why we have trouble doing them. For example, getting a good summer job may be very important to you, but since it's weeks away and not urgent, you may put off looking on Craigslist until it's too late and suddenly all the good jobs are filled. Had you been in Q2, you would have planned ahead and found a better job. It wouldn't take more time, just a little more planning. Meet the prioritizer. Although she's by no means perfect, she's basically got it together. She takes a look at everything she has to do and then prioritizes, making sure her first things get done first and her last things last. Because she has the simple but powerful habit of planning ahead, she's usually on top of things by doing her homework on time and writing papers a little in advance. She does her best work and avoids the stress and burnout that come from cramming. She makes time to exercise and renew herself, even if it means pushing aside other things once in a while. The people who matter most in her life, like her friends and her family, come first. Although it's a struggle, staying balanced is important to herself. She changes the oil in her car regularly, and she doesn't wait until she's running on fumes to fill up for gas. She takes time to relax and knows there's a time and place to let loose. She's learned how to say no with a smile. When her friends dropped by unexpectedly one evening to go to a party, she said, "No, I have a huge test tomorrow. How about Friday night? Let's go out then." Her friends were okay with that and secretly wished they'd had the courage to stick to their guns too. She's learned that resisting peer pressure appears unpopular at first, but that people come to respect her for it. The results of living in Q2 are control your life, balance, and high performance. So that's what we're going to read today. I want you to decide where you are. Are you a Q1, a Q2, a Q3, or a Q4? And in your workbook or on your notebook paper, I want you to draw out the quadrants, just like you saw up here. Let me go back to it. I don't remember what page it was on. I'll just go straight there. Sorry guys, my computer's going so slow. I have to get a charger. It comes in on Thursday. Okay, almost there. Okay, so I want you to draw this quadrant out on your notebook paper. And just like it looks right here, draw it exactly the way it appears here. Once you've drawn out the quadrants and you've written these notes down, jot down some of your own notes and figure out exactly where you are. And be honest with yourself. Don't land in quadrant 2 because it looks good and that's where you think you are. Be honest with yourself, okay? Um, do you ever have quadrant 1 moments? If you do, put a star there. If you ever have quadrant 2 moments, put a star by each thing there that you do on a regular basis. If quadrant 3, put a star by the things you do there on a regular basis. And quadrant 4. And whichever one you have the most stars, or you can add the most things to, is probably the quadrant where you're at. And obviously, based on what we've discussed today, quadrant 2 is where we want to be, but we're probably somewhere in 1, 3, or 4 currently. And so we're going to take the next few days and work that out. Okay? All right. So make sure that you draw out the chart and figure out which quadrant you are in mostly right now so that you are prepared for tomorrow. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you on the flip side. Toodle-doo.